better daily, where we work hard in our minds, bodies, and our spirits to become 1% better every single day. Download the app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live to catch the video version of these podcasts. Here's your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Tuesday. It is Nutrition Tip Tuesday, and today we are covering electrolytes because we're gonna get sweaty. I don't know about you guys, but here in Arkansas, it is hot. It is hot and it's humid, and the hot, humid Arkansas weather has us sweating our butts off. So I trained my 5:30 client this morning. It was 80 degrees at 5:30 a.m. this morning. And just during the warm-up, because my clients, depending on their goals and their certain fitness level and the trajectory of their body and whatnot, we do different warm-ups. In this particular client's warm-up, we go to the hill, we do some hill runs, and then we come in to lift weights. And so before we were even done with the warm-up, I had already sweat through my shirt, because, that's 80 degrees isn't bad. It's the humidity. It's like 101% humid. I'm just kidding. It's 100% humidity here almost all the time. And that's just the way it's going to be for some months. And so today I want to talk to you about these warmer months, and I want to talk to you about how to make sure that you're supporting your body. And we're going to talk about electrolytes because it's a relatively simple thing to support your body with, and it's a relatively simple thing to fix. But if you don't know how to fix it, you might end up with some of the problems associated with bad electrolyte balance as you're working towards your walk 100 goals or your run 100 goals or your lift 100 goals, or as we're finishing up the Faithful 40 challenge here. I want you to be sweating through the summer. Sweating's great for you on a number of levels. However, I also want you to be replenishing your electrolytes. So just a brief educational bit on what electrolytes do. There are 7 major electrolytes. Okay, I'm going to see if I can remember them off the top of my head because there's a lot of elements in the world. Okay, but there are 7. There's potassium, there's magnesium, there's chloride, then there's calcium, and there's bicarbonate, and there's phosphate. Very, very important. And then I'm going to look at my cheat sheet here. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, chloride, phosphate, and bicarbonate. That's all 7. Okay. Anyway, those are the 7 most important and major electrolytes. There are a few other electrolytes, but we say electrolytes as if we know what we're talking about. Most people think Gatorade, like electrolytes, Gatorade, or electrolytes, Pedialyte. Those are, colloquial electrolyte sources. But what electrolytes are is they are the signal holders for the body. So imagine you have just water. Quick chemistry lesson. Imagine you have just water, which you're made of almost 70% of, give or take, depending on how much water you retain. Imagine you have just a thing of water and there's nothing in it at all. And you try to pass electricity through it. Have you ever heard you shouldn't stand in a pool during a lightning storm? Why? Because water is a great conductor of electricity. That's actually wrong. Water is a terrible conductor of electricity if there are no electrolytes present. We used to do this in chemistry. We'd take distilled water and we put 2 electrodes in it, and we'd see how much electricity could go through the water. It doesn't. Water is a terrible conductor of electricity. But if you add a tablespoon of salt to the water, just a tablespoon of sodium chloride, that's table salt, sodium chloride, that's the average person's salt. That sometimes you can have potassium chloride or a few other things in your salt, depending on what salt you buy. But anyway, sodium chloride, regular old table salt, if you add that to distilled water and you put 2 electrodes in, electricity passes much better through that. It's called a conducting solution because the sodium plus, that's Na plus ions, and the Cl minus, that's chloride ions, they allow for the transfer of electrons, which is what makes electricity work. Now, I know that was really complicated, but hear me out, because the same thing happens in your body. The nerves in your body are constantly sending electrical signals to your muscles, especially, but also to different other organs and different other systems in the body. And if your electrolyte balance is poor, If you don't have the right amount of electrolytes in your cells and in the surrounding fluid, then it actually messes with your body's ability to send signals from your brain and nervous system to the parts of your body that need to receive the signals. I'll give you an easy to understand example. Can you touch your toes? Can you touch your toes? When you flex your muscles, calcium ions, that's one of the electrolytes I talked about. Calcium ions allow for the muscle to contract. That's one of the electrolytes that allows for muscle contraction. Magnesium ions allows for muscle relaxation. And so if you don't have enough magnesium ions in the body, that's one of the electrolytes, again, that we talked about, but you have too many calcium ions in the body, then what happens is your muscles are always tight and constricted and they don't move very well. And this is an example of one of the ways that electrolytes can affect us in a way we really can notice, right? Other ways that electrolyte imbalance can affect you would be things like being lightheaded and dizzy. So let's say you sweated out a lot of your sodium. That's chemical symbol Na, that's part of the table salt mixture. Let's say you sweated out a lot of your sodium today, and so your sodium is low. I want to say that's called hyponatremia, if I remember right. That's the technical medical word for low sodium. Anyway, that said, let's say your sodium's low. What happens is sodium is responsible, just like calcium, for keeping your blood vessels nice and tight and constricted so that they can shunt blood to the brain. It's really hard work to get blood up from the body into the head. It's very hard. There's a lot of capillaries in there. Your heart has to work really hard to get blood through there. Well, if there's a lack of sodium and a lack of calcium and the blood vessels are open, then you can't get the blood to the brain very easily because there's not enough pressure. And that can make you lightheaded. It can make you nauseous. It could make you dizzy and foggy brained, right? And so this happens to athletes sometimes in the middle of a very intense workout or even thereafter. Their sodium levels drop, and so they are unable to maintain a high level of performance because their muscles are weak and they're foggy headed and nauseous and all that stuff, right? So electrolyte balance is extremely important. Now, there are a couple ways you can get this done. One, if you're trying to eat really healthy, sometimes you'll cut out a lot of important electrolytes, especially if you're not eating certain types of foods. I'll give you an example. Let's say you go, hey, it's summertime, I'm trimming stuff, and so I'm not eating a lot of salt right now. Because, salt can also increase your water retention. And so you stop salting your food and you get some low sodium options and maybe you don't eat out as much and all that. And suddenly your body's like, hey, we're used to 3,000 milligrams of sodium and you're over here getting 1,000 milligrams of sodium. And now you're sweating all the time. Well, guess what? You're going to be low sodium and you won't even think about it, right? Because who thinks about how much salt they're eating? This guy, but that's why I exist, is to help you think about things you don't normally think about. So that said, you might say, okay, well then I'll just salt my food. Well, low sodium can also affect things like calcium and chlorine and bicarbonate and magnesium and phosphorus, which are all other electrolytes that matter. And so what I generally recommend is a pretty solid electrolyte supplement. So I have two examples here. This you can find at your local Walmart or drugstore. It's called BioSteel Hydration Mix. It's not bad as far as store-bought electrolyte supplements go. It's got almost every major one, just not in huge amounts, right? So they got sodium, they got calcium, they got magnesium. So we're talking about 1 to 6% of your daily need of your electrolytes here. And note that there's 20 scoops in this big container, and that one scoop is a serving. Okay, so this is something you can get for like $12 at your local drugstore. This isn't bad. Like if this is all you got, great. This is definitely better than nothing in the summer for electrolytes. I prefer this one. This is made by a company called UCAN, Generation UCAN. Very, very cool company. They actually started by dealing with glycogen storage disease. So maybe someday I can tell you their story. Today in our shortcast is not the right place for it. And they came up with a electrolyte solution that I think is monumental. Personally, this is what I use. This is what I recommend to my clients during the summer. Sometimes when I'm working out with a client in my garage gym, usually I bring them water with this in it. They're like, oh, this is good. What is this? Like, oh, it's electrolytes, so you don't die while we're training. But that said, this has got calcium, phosphorus. It has all of them: calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, chlorine. If you don't take anything else away from me, you're going to know that there's 7 primary electrolytes. But UCAN provides these in concentrations from 3 to 13% with an extra bit of magnesium. In 1 scoop of this, they have 30 servings. I know the jar looks smaller, but the scoop is also smaller, so it's a lot more potent. The other thing I like about UCAN is they use stevia as a sweetener, which is a lot easier on my stomach, whereas this uses things like inositol and erythritol and asulfame K potassium. There we go, which my stomach doesn't much appreciate any of those sweeteners. So I put a scoop of this in my water every day during the summer that I'm sweating a lot, sometimes 2, because, it could be the workout, sweating in my garage gym, but it could also be the workout plus jumping on the trampoline with the kids and doing some yard work, maybe going for a hike. Anytime I'm sweating out a lot, and this is primarily important to me because with Ehlers-Danlos, I struggle with POTS. That's postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which means that when I stand up, my blood vessels often will stretch real fast and I lose all the blood flow to my brain for a second. And so when I change my posture, that's the postural part in POTS. When I change my posture, all of a sudden I get lightheaded and nauseous and dizzy. And POTS can happen to people who don't have Ehlers-Danlos. This is a thing other people struggle with too. Often happens if you're on a blood pressure medication, for instance, and perhaps the dosage is a little high. Maybe you've been getting in better shape over the past few months and you haven't changed your blood pressure medication dosage down lower. Don't do that without your doctor's permission. Like, talk to them first before you start trying to change your blood pressure medication amounts. But anyway, that said, let's say you're getting in better shape, your blood pressure is improving, but your blood pressure medication level is still pretty high, then you can do a POTS too. And in electrolytes, making sure that you get enough electrolytes every day can be a part of making sure that POTS isn't terrible for you. I can tell when I'm low in sodium and low in calcium because I get really dizzy throughout the day. And so it's important for me to make sure that I'm getting those things, especially since I'm not eating a lot of processed foods. We don't eat out a lot, that sort of thing. So I know I've said a lot. We've gone from a brief chemistry lesson to POTS and electrolytes in the middle and talking about electrodes. So I know that's a lot to take in. The core message here is this: it's getting hot. If you're going to be sweating a lot this summer, which I hope you are, I hope you're going to get outside. I hope you're going to allow your excretory system, that's your kidneys and whatnot, I hope you're going to allow that to sweat you out and soak some shirts, man. I know it's a gross feeling sometimes, but for me, taking a sweaty shirt off, it's just like, look at that. I'm just getting rid of all that garbage my body didn't need. And I get to replenish it with some new water and new electrolytes. I hope you'll do that. And if you are doing that, please, 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 please restore your electrolytes. Now, before I finish here, I can hear some of you saying, I don't like supplements, or I want to order generation. It's fine, whatever. One of the primary sources of electrolytes in our lives, well, twofold. One, the phosphorus is hard to get. So that's actually going to come from many of your protein sources. So getting enough protein on a regular basis is going to make sure that you get that phosphorus taken care of. 2, magnesium comes primarily from your green leafy vegetables and seafood. So that's the other one that's really hard to get. So phosphorus from your animal protein sources, your magnesium's coming from your green leafy vegetables and your seafood, right? And then the other group of them, potassium and chlorine and sodium, you can also get those from pickles, not like your store-bought kosher. I'm talking about like something that has been fermented and pickled, right? So we actually make cucumbers into pickles in our house. That's what we do. You can do it. It's not hard. You can look up a recipe and can it. It's not terrible. But using something that's been pickled, that can actually help too. So now, your store-bought pickles could supply your electrolytes. It's just not going to help your microbiome very much. They've got a lot of sodium benzoate in them. And so a lot of the positive microbes that you would get from a home pickled thing isn't going to exist in your store-bought pickles. But that's another conversation that we've had at a different time. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope that you'll restore and regenerate your electrolytes. What's up, Pat? Thanks for joining me this morning. I hope that you'll sweat this summer and that you won't wrestle with POTS on accident because you didn't get enough sodium, calcium, magnesium, chlorine, phosphorus, bicarbonate, and what do I keep missing? It's killing me. It's just killing me. Potassium? Am I missing potassium? Anyway, it's in the show notes, dang it. Guys, tomorrow is Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to you joining me then. But until then, this has been Alex and Hound in Better Daily Live. It's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for 1% Better today. Don't forget to subscribe for the podcast. Leave us a raving review to tell others how Better Daily has helped you in your journey. If you want more Better Daily, download our app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live. Use code POD to get 25% off your subscription. That's POD, all caps, to save 25% on your subscription. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.live today.